Today, I'm talking about the top 10 Turn Autism Around podcast episodes of 2023. We start out with a very controversial one, and we end with a controversial one too. So let's get to it. Hi there, welcome back. I wanted to run through our top 10 podcast episodes. These were selected mostly based on podcast listens, downloads, views on YouTube, and mostly based on that. There's one or two that are more of my favorites that maybe didn't have the views, but I wanted to loop back around. So this is the end of our 5th year of the Turn Autism Around podcast, and over 1.5 million downloads so far just on the audio end, plus lots and lots of YouTube videos as well. So if you haven't given a review, shared the podcast with others, subscribe to the podcast, all of those would be helpful. Mainly trying to get the word out to people who are at the start of their autism journey or just showing signs of autism, not quite sure if it's autism, because the same techniques work. My toddler course, for instance, half of our participants do not have an autism diagnosis for their children yet when they join. So without further ado, let's get to the top 10. And I did say in the intro that the first one is probably our most controversial show so far, which was a surprise. It is episode 209, which was the first episode in January of 2023. It's on Gestalt Language Processing, Gestalt language learners. I didn't know much about it, but since I produced so much content on TikTok and Instagram, I was getting a lot of messages about echolalia, delayed echolalia, and scripting, and how that related to Gestalt language processing, which was a term I was unfamiliar with. So I asked Sari Risen, who is an SLP BCBA, and she had some knowledge of Gestalt, and I wanted her to come on the show, which she is our interviewee for episode 209. And it's controversial because there are several big Instagram, TikTok influencers who talk a lot about Gestalt language and how they need something different. They need this language acquisition model developed or coined by Marge Blanc. In the episode, Sari incorrectly called Marge Blanc doctor, and later found out after the episode, while she was working on more research on Gestalt, that Marge Blanc is Ms. Marge Blanc, not Dr. Marge Blanc. But she's done a lot of work in the field, and they believe that these kids who script, who have a lot of echolalia, learn language in chunks. But Sari and I disagree with that. We really believe, and we've given several examples throughout the podcast of our kids scripting and having these little pat responses. And after the show, which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this on our top 10, is after the show, Sari spent hours and hours writing up this 16-page critical appraisal of Gestalt language processing and the natural language acquisition model. And that is at marybarbera.com/NLA. Some of the things we both agreed with the natural language acquisition model was we need to determine what kids love, we need to make intervention fun, but the concerning aspect of these kids need something different besides applied behavior analysis, verbal behavior, and my 4-step Turn Autism Around approach. We didn't agree with that. So I really do think that listening to the whole show, marybarbera.com/209, and definitely downloading the 16-page research paper that Sari wrote at marybarbera.com/NLA will be a great start if you want to learn more about NLA and Gestalt from Sari Risen's perspective as an SLP BCBA, which I agree with. Okay, on to the number 2 is episode 210, which was potty training rebroadcast. A couple of years ago, we started these rebroadcasts. We're going to, I think, call them greatest hits going forward, but we bring back episodes that have done really well, really popular, and for our newer listeners, probably you haven't listened to them. But potty training is, I think, the number one topic that people find us for. And I think it's because I'm both a registered nurse and a behavior analyst. And when I was a registered nurse, I always worked in the neuro rehab field. So I was teaching, neurologically impaired patients, like patients with strokes and head injuries, spinal cord injuries, brain tumors, and helping them with self-care, including toileting. And so when I got involved in the autism world, neither of my boys were potty trained. And when it came to potty training, I, was very interested in how to get Lucas potty trained. But once we got him potty trained, Spencer potty trained pretty much at the same time. Started working on a more positive, child-friendly approach to potty training, using all of my hats, all of my backgrounds. And I did just recently revise my 20-page potty guide. It is free at marybarbera.com/potty. You can also, just search Mary Barbera Potty for lots of information, and you can listen to the rebroadcast. We'll link that in the show notes. Okay, our number 3 on our top 10 list is episode 214 with member Ruth. And Ruth attended a on the fence Zoom call when we were offering our course. She got on the Zoom call. She was all excited that she had listened to every single one of my podcasts, which at the time was over 200 podcasts. And I calculated that was over 165 hours just of my free content in the form of podcasts. While her son made a lot of gains with the free information, I convinced her that no matter what, that I thought the curated content within my course would be best. So Ruth joined the toddler course, moved up to all access VB bundle membership. She even joined our Train the Trainer course in the spring and our group coaching cohort this past fall. And we call this getting out of the sea of free. And I really hope that everybody here is listening, but also listening and thinking, yeah, maybe I need to get out of the sea of free, because you don't have the time to listen to 165 hours of content. And now, in addition to my online courses, which I do think are the best way to make the most progress, I also have 5 days to more talking, which is a mini course at a fraction of the course price. So you can dip your toe in the water, get out of the sea of free, and start making progress, whether you have a young child or an older child or a toddler with signs of autism. If they are struggling with talking, if they're not talking in short 1-2 word utterances or even in phrases, but not conversational, you can definitely benefit from the 5 days to more talking course, which you can find more information at marybarbera.com/5 days. On to the number 4 episode, which is episode 218. And it was a solo show about Miss Rachel. So I'm not sure If you have small kids, I'm pretty sure you know who Miss Rachel is. She's a YouTube sensation, TikTok. She's got millions of followers, Instagram, same thing. She's getting a lot of press, the Today Show, Good Morning America. And Miss Rachel is a music teacher, and she had a son with a severe speech delay, and started making content for him and for others. And now she makes videos that are free on YouTube. And in the solo show, I actually was hoping to have Miss Rachel on my podcast, and that possibility is still always out there. But I wanted to bring in some of the techniques she uses that I have used for over 2 decades as well. So some of these is like leaving a blank for fill in the blanks. Twinkle, twinkle, little. Being exaggerated with your tone, being more enthusiastic, exaggerated, saying words slowly but animated, like pig, 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 using repetitive phrases, using song fill-ins, using imitation. I actually, while I was watching her TikTok videos, thought of some videos, I called them the Miss Mary videos, that I did in 2010, 2011. They are in the show notes. And you can take a look at them. You can make your own video models based on what I did in 2010. And you can find all of that, plus the whole episode, which I think is a good one, at marybarbera.com/218. And we'll link that in the show notes as well. Number 5 on our list of the top 10 is episode 226, which is a top 5 questions about toddlers being obsessed with the alphabet, with numbers. It's called Hyperlexia, and we've done quite a bit of work on hyperlexia. It is a very popular topic. Lucas was hyperlexic. I talk about it in Turn Autism Around book as well. And a couple of years ago, I had Kelsey and Rachel and Michelle, to a lesser degree, come on, get the top 5 questions we get in our community about a particular topic. And it's a great episode if you want to take a listen. Number 6 on our list of top 10 is another episode with Kelsey, our community manager. And here we cover the best autism toys, where we actually do a show and tell. That one is probably better to watch on my website, marybarbera.com/podcast, or in this case, /235 to watch the podcast, or on YouTube. You can watch that too, where if you are going to listen, it's fine. We give the item name and we describe it, but you might want to actually see the toys if you're interested. On to podcast number 7 on our list is episode 238, which is a solo show entitled What to Do When Your 18-month-old is Not Talking. This was aired in July of 2023, and it was also the start of our new system on the back end. We worked with a podcast consultant, and we analyzed the data, and it shows that you listeners, like more solo shows, shorter shows, and shows about younger kids. Not all the shows, but if you have an older child who's still struggling with talking, tantrums, picky eating, sleeping, potty training, we're still covering the same things. But for new listeners, for new video viewers, for new subscribers on YouTube, it's best to start as early as possible. So don't feel left out if I'm talking about little kids, because as long as your child still falls in those deficits of a younger child, you can benefit from all of the information. So that is number 7. So moving on to number 8 is an interview with Dr. Francesca Del Espinosa, and she is a world-renowned autism practitioner and researcher, and we talked with Francesca about joint attention and eye contact. And I got some new tips. And also, I'm a big proponent of table time, as you know. I can link a table time podcast or video in the show notes, but I'm also a big proponent of not sitting directly across from children, but sitting catty corner from me, and from the parent or from the practitioner. And that triangle of, looking at the item or the reinforcement and sitting in a triangle, a catty corner, really is a factor in building up joint attention. So I never thought about it like that. I always thought table time and catty corner, but I never thought about specifically how that relates to joint attention. So we talk about that within episode 242 as well. All right. Number 9 on our top 10 list is episode 243, which is the 5 language mistakes you and your child's therapist may be making. It was actually a webinar that I did after the 5 days to more talking, which summarizes the mistakes that I believe parents and practitioners are making, that may be not helping language, but actually hurting it inadvertently. So that one is a great one. It got a ton of views and a ton of watches on YouTube as well. So that is episode 243. So anytime I say 243 or 250, you can always get there by marybarbera.com/243. And our final number 10 on our list of the top 10 from 2023 is another controversial one. It was actually last week's episode. I'm not sure if you missed that because of the holidays, but last week I talked about new research study published in JAMA Pediatrics, which is called Persistence of Autism Spectrum Disorder from Early Childhood Through School Age. It's a research study involving 213 children who were diagnosed between the ages of 12 months and 36 months of age. And then they were looked at again between 5 and 7 years of age. And the exciting, interesting findings are that 37.1% of the kids no longer met the diagnostic criteria for autism. And the only 2 variables that separated out the best outcome group from the persistent ASD were being female. Most of the females, there were only 36 females in the study, and 22 of them, I believe, had non-persistent ASD, and 14 of them were persistent ASD. So being female was better, and also having higher adaptive skills on baseline was a factor in the kids that had non-persistent ASD. So last week, episode 259 is a really good one to look at if you're a researcher, if you're in the medical field, or if you're a parent or grandparent of a young child or a child who was diagnosed very young. Or, my question is, can toddlers who are not diagnosed avoid the diagnosis? And, in my book, I talk about Max, for instance, who literally met the criteria for autism, did not get a diagnosis because by the time we got in, he was kind of doing much better socially, ended up doing really well and not needing a diagnosis. So the reason that's controversial is because there are some people that believe that autism, no matter when it's diagnosed, is lifelong, it's permanent, there's no ability to move the needle. Some people believe that autism is a gift. And for some people that might be the case, but for people that are listening to this podcast, that is not the case. We are helping kids get better with adaptive skills, get better as possible with language, as better as possible with problem behaviors, so that each child can reach his or her fullest potential. That's my goal. That's been my goal for over 25 years. these episodes are all related to that goal. So I want to spread the word when I hear about research. I want to review it. I want to bring it to you, and I want you to share it. So that is marybarbera.com/259. You can get all the show notes and all the links and spread it around. Episode 260 will be this one. It's the last one of 2023. And when we come back in January, we're going to have Michelle C. on back to tell us about her daughter who was diagnosed with autism at 2 and no longer meets the criteria, no longer needs any support. And we're going to talk about her transition to kindergarten. So let's get ready for that one. Wishing you all a happy new year. And we're going to really just do more good and spread the word in 2024. So thanks so much. And again, happy new year. Thanks for listening.